Hey, this is Omar coming in live from my underground bunker in some undisclosed location. And thank you once again for joining me on another episode of my podcast. Lately, I've been slapped with warnings and I've been placed in the Facebook jailhouse for like 2 weeks. And also YouTube. I haven't been able to monetize several YouTube videos because of the content. Can you say censorship? They talk about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, but only if you agree with their agenda and you play their game. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. I'll be right back.
Thank you very much for listening to Omar Oropesa's podcast. Don't forget to follow him on social media, listen to his music on digital platforms, and watch his videos on YouTube. Visit the website omaroropesa.org to stay up to date with the latest information.
After the 2020 presidential election, we could actually see Gestapo-style political censorship in American media. Until this day, this censorship still dominates a year later, with no end in sight. And there's a lot to be said about how we got here. But it's worth zeroing in on the two mechanisms that are enforcing this. One of them is the fact checkers. The second is Facebook. The fact these two entities have now joined forces means speaking freely online without an algorithm slapping a warning label on your opinion or psychoanalyzing your potential for extremism is becoming very, very hard. You can't talk about COVID. You can't talk about the vaccines. You can't talk about the Wuhan lab. You can't talk about the Chinese virus. You can't even talk about medication that are helping billions of people to deal with COVID, which is ivermectin. Can't even talk about President Trump. And he was the first one that got censored. Just think about that. A former president censored in the United States. The land of the free. And the funny thing is that the left talks about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, but only when you agree with their agenda. Now, my question is, who is actually checking the fact checkers? Anybody checking them out? But you see, these fact checkers, they're all protected by freedom of the press under the First Amendment. But third-party independent fact-checkers are another story entirely. These are entities such as Lead Stories, PolitiFact, and even Associated Press that offer their fact-checking expertise to social media platforms so that later on, nobody can claim that they are making an editorial decision. But that only works if third-party fact-checkers are operating objectively and without bias. It's obvious they work for the left. And we, as the American people, we don't have to sit back and take it from social media. We, the people, through our elected officials, absolutely have a right to ensure that this industry is providing a level playing field. If one was to sell a service that actually weighed produce to set a price, it would and probably should be illegal for them to secretly use different scales, depending on the farmer or the type of produce. It's practically the same thing. They censor anybody who does not agree with the agenda. Social media companies, They want to have it both ways. Yeah, they keep on insisting that they are not publishers. Oh no, and therefore not liable for what appears on their supposedly neutral platforms. But they also insist that it is fine for them to suppress content because a third-party fact checker chosen by the social media company itself says they should. Brothers and sisters, this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. May God have mercy on the great US of A.
If you like this podcast, you can support it by sharing it and donating just by clicking on the link in the description. It would be deeply appreciated and a blessing.